Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello. Hey.
How are you? You all right?
Yes, good. How are you?
I'm very good. Whereabouts in the world are you? It's always good to put a kind of location. If we had virtual pinpoints, we could kind of go,
I'm in London.
okay,
I'm
cool.
in as
Also in London.
yeah.
Not that far from Anna, actually.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm in South London. She's in West London.
Oh, okay. West London, very nice.
It's
Very
not that posh. Like, I'm not posh. My house is fine, but it's a bit shit.
It looks pretty posh, like surrounded by all your plant pots, though.
These are foster plants. Most of them
Oh, that's so lovely.
are, yeah. Almost all of them, except we don't need to talk about plants. Fucking hell.
nice. We'll talk about whatever you want. I love plants, so yeah.
Are we allowed to swear?
Preferably not, but I can always bleep it with a plant noise.
No, I won't.
What noise does a plant make? That's definitely the noise that mine makes.
Especially when they're sprayed with vinegar, which I
That was
discovered earlier.
Lelda. I don't want to get it. Although I have overwatered mine slightly.
No, I think it's fashionable. You've kind of gone green and yellow. They are the colours of the season. You know, your
It was
plants.
intentional, yeah.
Yeah, it's London. It's whatever fashion week somewhere. So I'm sure it's on point. Um, we're absolutely excited to have Loo Prov with us. We love the idea. We loved watching the extract that you sent through to us. So we're incredibly excited. We've paired you up with a fantastic local company. So already we know that it's going to be nice and buzzy, and they will rock the house, as will you. So we're just really chuffed that you're able to come and join us. We know we're going to talk later on about other festivals that you've been to. One of the things, the starters I've sort of asked folk is, what's inspired you this year? And you aren't necessarily allowed to use each other because we take that as read. So it could be a piece of art, it could be a film, it could be your plants, it could be, I don't know, whatever's made you just go, that was amazing, and that stuck with me, and it's almost like lodged into my brain. So whoever wants to take that one.
Are you gonna go first, Anna?
No, you can go first.
Great. Well, I this sounds super corny, and I'm not gonna. This isn't my official answer, but I have to say it. I'm really lucky. I get to work with lots of different improvisers, and like they're so inspiring. I will often be like sitting. When I teach, I usually sit on the floor. So I'll be sitting on the floor watching my students, and I'm just like in tears. I try and hide it, but like they are so inspiring, and it's seeing like, and it makes me very emotional just thinking about it. Just seeing the way that people like connect to one another, and they like, I don't know, they just like listen to each other, and they're present with one another, and like seeing the kindness that builds between people when they're just available to one another. That is so unbelievably inspiring to me. And then seeing people take that outside of like their improv class, and like the other night somebody had helped somebody else, and then they brought chocolate to say thank you, and like the way that they take it away from like an improv setting, for me it is the most amazing thing. So I think like seeing any humanity, just kindness is just the best. But that's my unofficial answer. The true, like the other answer, like the artistic answer is last year I was very lucky to go to New York, and I'm a music theater nerd, so I got to see The Notebook, which was so beautiful. A lot of the like most like in recent years we've seen the screen to stage thing happening more, and I don't like it. It makes my insides crunchy. But seeing The Notebook, it was just unbelievably beautiful, and it was such a gorgeous human story. And I've never been in a theater where like you could, there audible sobs through the like the finale. There was just like like all around the theater. But it was so, and I think it's, you know, it's that thing of like human connection, seeing true beautiful human connection. And also like the orchestrations for that show, the music is just so moving. And at the end, the most moving part was the a cappella singing, which is just like people. It's just people being people, expressing themselves through the arts. And I don't know, I'm very pro that. I thought it was gorgeous. There you
Look
Wow.
at
go.
her.
My daughter's a big musical theatre fan, so I'll have to ask her about that because normally when we travel to rugby together, because she plays, she normally has her musical theatre list because she is the DJ in the car. So I'm quite familiar with most new musicals. Waitress is one of my ones which I kind of really kind of go, oh yeah, that's got a soft spot. But yeah, oh, fantastic. And of course, building tribes, communities who work together and play together are healthy. So, and seeing that under your watch while sitting on the floor, which I like. I like sitting on the floor. It's,
Oh, I can't. I'm not very good on chairs and furniture. I feel like I'm gonna fall. I'm so clumsy. But
yeah,
I'll
I
fall.
just struggle to get from the floor now. That's the problem. My knees are so bad. It's just like my son said. He said the other day, I heard you get up, kind of like creaking, and he said you just sounded like you were standing on bubble wrap, and I was just kind of going, no, that's just my back, my knees, and body just gradually, So age is not a good thing. Anna,
The alternative.
yeah. Anna, what's inspired you this year? What's made you kind of smile or made you kind of weep or both at the same time?
I think, yeah, I've got kind of like two answers. One is sort of picking up on what Lelda said. A lot of my friends have been going through tough times in the last year. Like, I have, and a lot of my friends have, and it's been really nice to see kind of friendships come together and people like supporting each other and that kind of like love between friends. And I think definitely in our show, which is often about kind of friends knowing each other or people knowing each other, that's been really useful to kind of be able to tap into those emotions. And yeah, that's been very useful. I think the other thing is I did so Lelda runs Blanche, which is an improv school in London, and I did a sketch course at her school last year. And I didn't really, I mean, I'd seen sketch kind of growing up. I like sort of Monty Python and sort of various other things, but I didn't really know that much. And as a kind of kid, I never really watched Saturday Night Live, and it really kind of introduced me to a lot of like American sketch, which I hadn't really watched before. My family didn't watch a lot of like American TV when I was a kid, and so I sort of done what like most kind of 15-year-olds I feel like do, which is like watch a lot of Saturday Night Live, except I've done it in like my mid-30s. And I feel like my comedy has gone, I used to consider myself as having like very highbrow comedy, and like being like very snooty about my comedy. And it's basically just got like more and more lowbrow. And I've loved every second of it. And I find myself just like laughing at like really silly jokes that like at 15 I wouldn't have laughed at, but now I'm like in my 30s, I'm like, this is hilarious. Or these like jokes about penises, I'm like, this is amazing. And it's been kind of fueled a little bit by the Lonely Islanders have got a podcast at the moment with Seth Meyers where they kind of dissect all their digital shorts. And I've been nerding out a little bit on that. So I feel like it's not particularly highbrow, but it's definitely helped on stage because I feel like I've been able to kind of unlock a kind of more silly side, which I definitely for a long time kept like locked up. I think it's quite hard being a woman who performs comedy, and I definitely feel like when I was a teenager and in my 20s, there was a real perception, definitely in the UK, that like women weren't funny, and if they were funny, you were only allowed like one woman per comedy show, and so I never really sort of got a huge amount of exposure to female comedians. And then I started listening to The Guilty Feminist, where they always have kind of female comedians on. And I was suddenly like, oh, there's so many of these amazingly funny women. And I really feel like in the last few years, women have been given more of a permission to be on stage and to be funny and to make kind of stupid, dick jokes, like if they want to, that's kind of okay. And that has felt like almost like a release that it's okay to be really dumb in your comedy. That's okay.
Have you been on Sky Arts? They've been repeated. They've been doing a series on SNL for the 50th anniversary,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the one on the
Oh,
cowbell.
the cowbell, yeah. Have you
Oh,
watched the music one? Have you seen the one on?
yes, 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 yes. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God, like Questlove's like the opening 11 minutes or whatever it is like I work in television and I sent it to everyone in my team because I was like, this is a masterclass in like sound and video editing. Like it's genius.
Yeah,
But yeah, the docs are great. They're really fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I was just amazed how many bands they or artists they broke in terms of giving exposure to,
Yeah.
but also the amount of really famous folk who have been on in terms of musicians and stuff. And that environment just seemed so intense. It was just like, whoa.
Yeah, I think that's the whenever I listen to this podcast, I'm like, this sounds so much fun to work in, but I'm so glad I don't work there. Like it
Yeah,
sounds so stressful.
yeah.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
it seems like everyone's going to have a sort of their heads are going to explode or
I
something like
know.
that.
It's like intense stress levels. I'm so glad I do improv where we can make it up on stage.
Yeah.
You don't have to write things for a week.
Well, I used to, we used to devise and tour and all that sort of stuff. But I sort of got to the point where I was like, do you know what? We're making it too hard. Let's
Yeah.
just go back and do the bit where we make it up, but we don't write it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carrying sets and costumes, putting up sets.
Oh,
No.
Lelda knows how annoying it is because when we performed the showcase after this sketch course, I was like, "Can I have a live dog?" And Lelda was like, "Absolutely not." What else did I ask for? I had so many costumes. I turned up with a suitcase. Yeah.
yeah, I don't mind that it's the carrying of. I think stuff on wheels is fine.
Yeah.
I think if you put, we've made taxi tails to fit in a suitcase because we intend to sort of take it and teach it at festivals abroad. So it all literally like steering wheel, car cover seats, everything, it all packs down. So I think what improv needs is really, really good designers who can pack stuff into suitcases. Make really clever set that just goes into a wheelie suitcase and we're off.
One of my favorite bits of when you go to the Edinburgh Fringe is the bit as soon as the show's finished where they're desperately trying to bow and get as many claps as possible, also pack up all their belongings into a box so they can get the hell out of there.
Because it's probably just about the 30 seconds overrun.
Yeah,
And that's the
exactly.
30 seconds difference that stops them getting fined.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the next company coming on going, oh, you know. Whereas if you've just got an improv team, you just walk on.
Just walk off. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I generally think because obviously theatre's in quite a perilous state, I think, at the moment, because the cost of production is so high. There is a lot more improv going out on tour, on bigger tours. So I
Yeah.
think there is opportunity. And I've always felt that um, improv is sort of seen as a sort of dirty word almost, or a secondary, not looked upon as a legitimate art form. But I think because of the financial pressures that, I mean, we've had Ostentatious come through,
Yeah.
we've had MC Hammersmith.
Yeah.
We've had
Maybe once Caddy. I know Hamilton toured as well.
yeah, and Showstoppers.
Yeah.
So I think good quality work that is out there. If you put together a tour pack and stuff. I mean, I've got a show that's going out and it's doing 43 dates. And we
Wow.
made and we made improv for kids
Yeah.
because they're not very often very well served. But that's going out and that's just got funded. So but the thing being is I think there is opportunity at the moment for the improv or UK improv to kind of make its mark if
Yeah.
people can self-organize and put together. I mean, Canva's an amazing thing. I don't really
Yeah.
understand it, but Jen does, and it's like you can put together all this
Yeah.
stuff, which once upon a time would have cost you a fortune to have got a designer to do it. So I think it's democratized. You can put together a really good show reel that you can send out to folk and this, that, and the other. And it doesn't take a huge amount of time, skill, or effort to do that to professionalize what you're doing. But obviously people do improv for different reasons. So for some,
But I also think what I really like is that the improvisers have gone on to do other things,
yeah,
have then used their kind of their sort of celeb status to then bring improv to wider audiences. So like Kyle Smith Bino, who does called Story Bro, like he, you know, that's like a, you know, a long form improv show made up of kind of montages, and he and people go and see it because they love him, and you know he's famous from Ghosts and like you know Satellite's Fats and all this other stuff, and so people go and see it because of him, but then they're introduced to this form of improv which they probably would not otherwise not see. And it's the same with like Ben Schwartz in the States, you know, like he sold out Radio City, which was like thousands of seats, which is crazy, like absolutely crazy. These people go, yeah. And here in the UK he played the Royal Albert Hall, which is like, if you think about like that, people went to the Royal Albert Hall to see improv. You're like, that is amazing. Like 5 years ago you wouldn't have been able to say that. So
but I have like I feel I have reservations about that though. Like I love that it is like, because improv does come from a history of being like for the people. It's an accessible art form, and it's like political, and it's like you know, always been kind of readily available in that it's not expensive. It's not expensive to make. It's not expensive to put on. But like I don't know, I feel like putting it into like, because I saw Ben Schwartz at the Hammersmith Apollo, and it was like they're obviously skilled, like you cannot take their skill away from them, but it was just not, it wasn't the right venue. It was so like impersonal, and it lost the magic of what we do, which is like connect with the audience, because you're like you're a kilometer away from the stage. If you were, you know, unless you're rich, which is not me. But like even if you are in that, like having the huge space, and I think like it doesn't always need to be in the basement. It doesn't always need to be dingy. It doesn't always need to be like for 20 of your friends. But like, I think there comes a point where we lose. It's like, for me, it's like going to see a play in a stadia. Like it's just, see like close-ups, and it becomes a different experience. And for me, I don't enjoy the experience of like a highly of a really big space for improv or theater, if I'm really honest. I think it's a different experience, but it's kind of not, I don't know, you lose something.
It is interesting at the point where you are having to look. It's the same with plays. Like I've been to see like NT Live stuff, and I find it really interesting because that's obviously filmed, and so someone else has taken over the control of the audience's gaze to some extent. They've decided what they're going to look at, and so I was thinking of like Middleditch and Schwartz on Netflix, where you know, the whole thing about improv is that you can kind of see the whole stage as it's happening. And what's so interesting about putting it on Netflix is that someone's made that decision for you, and then it's kind of like, is this still improv if you're engaging with it in a slightly different way? It's obviously not live as well because it's recorded and then it's been edited. And although you know, they would have kept it very true, and I, having listened to Ben Schwartz interviews, they spent all their budget on cameras to make sure they could capture all of it, but it still doesn't feel entirely true to the art form to some extent, because improv is something that happens once and then it'll never happen again. And this is obviously,
sorry, finish.
No, that was the end of my thought.
But also, like, the audience is part of the creation for me, and if the audience is not there, they're not part of the creation. And I think it's great. I do actually think it's great that, like, I love NT Live, and when I was living in Australia, like, for me, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, and I got to see National Theatre in Australia, which was brilliant. But like, and I think it's amazing that we have got access to streaming and all of the video on demand stuff that you know, I love watching the shows that are in the States and stuff. But I also hate watching those shows because it's, for me, it's not improv. It's like having a coffee that's like from the instant coffee compared to other coffee.
That's such an Australian analogy. You're like, I'm going to compare coffee.
I really, you know, that's why I wish NT Live had the option for me, was just to watch a fixed camera from the back so I can see everything.
Yeah.
Rather than the editorial authorial decisions being taken away from me as a viewer. I feel like I'm no longer participant because, like the gaze on the stage is dictated to you. I think it's interesting because the Apollo isn't really, is more of a sort of stand-up venue, and I think that's sometimes the problem is bookers don't necessarily think about where they kind of almost equate improv with stand-up, and the rooms don't necessarily always work. Whereas I think if you put somebody in like 1,000-seater theatre, which is designed for intimacy, would be potentially a very different experience. But yeah, I agree. But you know, I kind of go, well, let's push the envelope and see where it might head, because you know.
I think that's kind of, I'm more on the side that I think like it's all good for improv, right? And you know, not everyone is going to be playing these like massive theaters, but if more people know about it and you can get more people to go and see the smaller shows, then that's always going to be good, and it means that like smaller theaters can thrive and things like that. So
Well, I as taxpayers, I don't see my art form in my local theatre very often, and so as taxpayers, I've always felt that I have the right to ask, well, why? You know, I know there's a lot of people in this city that pay their, you know, council tax and this, that, and the other. And it all goes to support what you do, but you don't represent me. So why, you know? So I think it's a good advocacy for, you know, kind of going, oh, they're putting it on here, why aren't you doing something? So I think we can use it as a lever to sort of slowly crank over those gates which have often been closed to us. So tell me about your travels. You've been around various parts of Europe and beyond, I'm sure, with Loo Prov and various other projects. What's excited you about kind of going and doing festivals sort of outside of the UK? One of the things I'm always trying to learn from people and their experiences is what's something that you've seen at a festival that you kind of go, oh, I think that would be a really good idea to be adopted elsewhere.
ooh.
So I'll give you an example. Stiff, which is in Oslo, they do a midweek break where they take everybody to the mountains on the railway and they just go and hang out and have a picnic and wander in the hills,
That sounds
which I think is a
amazing.
really nice idea. Another one that Lee told me about was oh, where was it? Oh, it's gone out of my head. Where there's a sign-up board in the bar, and it's like literally a 2x2 little piece of raised staging. You can go and improv in the bar whilst people between shows and people coming out and having drinks and stuff, which I really liked. So that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Somebody else mentioned that at Flock, they had a church hall which was just open and had games and stuff in, and you could just go and sit in there and be quiet. And they had some volunteers kind of going, you know, they'd be there to chat if you needed to, or not necessarily in a bad way, but you know, they just needed to chill out. So that sort of thing.
That's
Or it
really
could
nice.
be,
Lelda and I have been to the Edinburgh Improv Festival. I think well, I've been a couple of times. I think
It's been the one.
you've just been
I'm
once,
about
yeah.
to go.
But
I'm
we
about to
didn't, not with Loo Prov, just as
yeah.
improv fans. And they have a Kaylee on the Sunday night, which is really fun because by that point you've kind of got to know each other quite well, and there's nothing more fun than dancing Scottish dancing with like a bunch of improvisers who obviously, because the thing about Kaylee's is it's all about rules, but then also about kind of your own expression, which is like perfect for improv because it's like we're following these set rules, but we also could do like fun dances as we do it.
I have to object there because I don't believe in improv rules. I don't believe I am like, I love the dancing more than anything in the world, but I will not be on record agreeing with this.
No, fine, fair enough. Noted.
I love you for that, but like, it's not what I believe in.
No, I'm definitely with you on that one, Melda. I started improv in 2002, but I wasn't introduced to any rules, so I was like, no one told me that I couldn't do so. And it really pleases me when people come to see me while working with, well, you're not supposed to do that because it breaks the rules. And I goes, whose rules? So I'm like, yeah, as long as it has a logic in the world that I'm building, I don't care.
Yeah.
It may comply, it may not, but yeah. But there are, there are multiple waves of books which are going to go, and now these are the rules, and now we're going to challenge the rules, and now break the rules. Fuck the rules.
We have to work so hard. Where are we up to? Like, how many minutes have we not managed to
Yeah,
swear?
we're not far off. So
And this is very hard for both
I'm
me and
going to
Lelda.
now have to insert the plant noise, which is over the top of that. So yeah.
Somebody asked me recently, like, what do you do when you have to tell people that what you've taught them is not the case anymore? And I'm like, I don't. I teach techniques so that improv feels fun and easy. And if I'm teaching like from a philosophical or technique point of view, there will never be a point where I will say this rule that I've taught you has no longer applies. It's like this technique is always going to be in play. And if that's the case, then if that something has to change in that technique or philosophy, then I probably shouldn't have been teaching that in the beginning. Like, yeah, so I get, and also like it's not very Australian to be like rules.
That's very true. Whereas I'm very British, and I'm like, oh, there are rules.
For it.
Please
I
put
guess
me in
what I mean by rules is maybe more like technique. It's like things that you do to like, and then which is the same with, to bring it back to Kayleeing. There's a technique, right? But then you can kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
There's my analogy is just go further and further out the window. But the Kaylee was fun. We enjoyed it. I think festivals, like anything that the organized fun is good. No, anything that like brings people together. And I mean, the best thing about going to festivals, I think we've definitely found, is that you just meet all these amazing people from around the world. And like I've, have met people who I've stayed in touch with, who when they come to London, I've seen them. And when I've gone back and seen them at other festivals, that's been really lovely. And I think is the most important thing about going to festivals.
Yeah, no, I agree. For the best thing about organizing your own is that people come to your party.
I have to say, I am so excited about Liverpool because despite being British and despite having been to almost every single major city in the UK, I have never been to Liverpool. And my
Oh my
friend is
God.
from Liverpool, and I think I think he's sort of horrified that I've never been up there. I don't know why. I don't know why I've never made it up there, but I'm very excited to be able to take that off my list.
Oh, you're gonna have so much fun. Liverpool is ace. It's a proper walking city. You can't get lost because you just hit the river. And because for a variety of different reasons, of economic reasons, when the sort of 70s, 80s happened, everyone left the city. No one had any money to knock any of the nice old buildings down, so they got saved. So you've got all these what they would have done is knock them down and put concrete blocks in, whereas you've got this most amazing architecture. Everyone's really interested in why you're there. So they will just chat to you kind of like out of interest, and you will have, they'll kind of go, oh, where are you from? And it's not because they're being rude or anything, they're just interested in why you're there. So you're nice food, good beer, nice places to go and hang out, loads of great galleries, loads of great museums and stuff, more theatres per head of population than London. You can't go wrong.
Oh my God, it's your place, Lelda.
honestly, come up. It's amazing. And it's relatively inexpensive to live. I live 5 minutes from the beach. So
What a dream.
Sorry?
Is it a beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
What she's asking is does it have sand or does it have
Yeah. No, and on that beach is 150 statues of, oh my God, what's the artist? Oh
Anthony
my God,
Gormley?
Anthony Gormley, which are the most beautiful things that are weathered over the time. And you knew that immediately, Anna, didn't you? They're on Crosby Beach.
Yeah.
They just standing out into the water.
Yeah, I've seen the photos of it. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Oh, well, come up, go and enjoy, wander around, get lost, have fun. There's pretty much we've got the two beautiful cathedrals, which is linked by a road called Hope Street. One, Paddy's Wigwam, which is the Catholic one, is basically all just stained glass. So if you go in there on a sunny day,
Oh wow.
it's amazing. And then the
Yeah.
other one is the Anglican, which is much older, but that whole hosts loads of sculpture. It's had Cream Orchestra. It does all sorts of gigs in there and all sorts of things. But yeah, it's a very beautiful place and lots of fun. So we're
Oh,
really excited to have you.
We're really looking forward to coming. It's going to be great.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Lelda. Thank you so much, Anna, for being such a great guest. I've had an absolutely lovely evening with you both.
Thank you for having us.
Loo Prov will be joining us on the 25th of April at 4:30 p.m. They're sharing a double bill with Rod. Tickets available from the Unity website. Have a lovely evening. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah!